some point, so please welcome Mr. Ron Holland. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to move my mic down just a little bit. Is that better? Yeah. So I just want to give you a little bit of background about myself before I launch into where we're going today and talking about ISN. I've been a published author now for over 35 years, and I just want to give you a little plug, really. That's what it amounts to. Get Free with Financial Kung Fu was my first book, 1977, and in a way I've been spoiled because this book is still bringing in royalties even now. So I understand residual income very, very well. It's hard for me to believe, but Talk and Grow Rich came out in 1981 when I was a young man. I don't know how long ago that is, over 30 years ago. Talk and Grow Rich was the first book ever to introduce NLP into the business and sales arena. So before I came along, NLP, I was living in Beverly Hills, NLP was used for hypnosis, alcohol abuse, nicotine addiction, all of that kind of thing. A colleague of mine, Greg Turner, said NLP will fit right into your book, and I thought he was an idiot. Till I studied it, and I said to him, I said, that NLP fits right in there. He said, I've been trying to tell you that for 3 months. So that was that. A few of the speakers this weekend have mentioned the reticular activating system. We're going to be talking about that later. But what I write about, the kind of self-help industry picks up and writes about 6 years later. So the first time the reticular activating system was introduced into self-help was in this book, which is 1993, which is a long time ago, 20 years ago. Turbo Success, still selling, but this is the first mention of the reticular activating system. Of course, lots of other people have picked it up since then, and we'll be talking about it in a bit of detail later on, because I think if you understand how to get hold of that mechanism that's in your mind, the RAS, you'll really start making things happen. One of the things I would say to you, how many of you have read self-help books, personal development books, really studied them, and in a way felt a little bit let down? You haven't really accomplished the goals the books led you to believe that you would. How many of you? Quite a few of you. So there might be something missing, and there might be some kind of little click I can give you today, a little paradigm shift, and you go, well, that's the missing link. That's what I hope to do. And then I just want to share with you my latest book, The Eureka Enigma, and this was a couple of years ago. We got loads of 5-star testimonials on Amazon, so I wanted to kind of give you a 35-year potted history. Hopefully from that you've got it in one that I teach and train about positive thinking. I write about positive thinking for over 30 years. And I want to share something with you that I find kind of interesting. Philosophers for years have asked the question, if a tree is in the forest and it falls over and there's nobody around, does it make a sound? Have you heard that question before? How many of you have puzzled over that question? Not just me, a few of you. Does the tree make a sound when there's nobody else around? I've puzzled over it, I've never been able to work it out, but the question I want to ask you today is, you're looking at somebody who writes about positive thinking books and teaches and trains that. When that guy is on his own and he hasn't got that audience looking at him, does he ever slip into being negative and nasty and getting upset? Have you? Yes? You've asked yourself this question. Who else thinks somebody like me gets negative when I'm on my own? Yeah? Okay. There's people in this room who've known me 25 years and they've never seen me in that 25 years negative for a single minute. But when I'm on my own, let me show you what could happen. And I'm going back not all that long ago, I promise you faithfully, I had a bad hair day. And I'll tell you what happened. I got up and I got out the Ferrari. Within seconds, not minutes, within seconds, there's smoke coming out the ventilators, under the wheel arches. And I thought, I'm not going to get negative. I'm not going to bat an eyelid, zip the lip. I could have sworn, not me, not a problem. right? There was nobody there, but I thought somebody could be watching me, some of my audience, some of the readers of my book. I'll keep positive. Not a problem. Me, I got out the Lamborghini. Got out the Lamborghini, all positive, ready to go. Blow me down, within a few yards, the front wheel came off and I saw it rock. It beggars belief, doesn't it? The front wheel rolled off. Anybody else could have got very negative at that time. And I thought, no, I write positive books. I'm meant to be in a positive mode all the time. I'm not going to get negative. And I thought, no, zip the lip, keep positive. To me, no problem. This is what I did. I got the Maserati out. Do you know what happened? It wouldn't even start. It wouldn't even start. Now, I thought most people at that situation could have got negative. Not me. Not for a second. I got those little cars and I wrapped them up in bubble wrap. Yeah, I wrapped them up in bubble wrap and I put the lid on. It was a shoebox. And I wrote the letter to Sky Electrics. I said, they're not even a year old. I said, you get them fixed and get them back to me and I don't expect a bill. And that was it. That was my bad headache. Was that all right?
Yeah.
I never got negative for a second. So, I retired at the age of 29. I sold out all my motorcycle shops, my furniture shops, my 40-bedroom hotel. Went to live in America to become a full-time writer. Don't forget, I'd already written Debt-Free with Financial Kung Fu. So when I went to America in 1979 to become a full-time writer, and I met Greg, who introduced me to NLP, I was still a very, very young man, okay? And what I kind of find fascinating is when Talk and Grow Rich came out in 1981, it was picked up by all the big network marketing companies, and I ended up being a public speaker and a trainer and learning the ropes that they like me and I like them. Lived in America for 6 years. What I like to do now is help people make it happen. And I go, how are we really going to do it? So when it comes to business acumen and mind power, I'm very pedantic in getting into the how. How are we really going to do this? Not just skirting around the edges, not just alluding to things, but really getting to the nub of making things happen. And I did have something here, and I'm going to read it to you. Over the years, and I'm not talking about last week, I'm talking about a 30-year period, I've helped create many millionaires. Here's a little testimonial, and I've got written testimonials from people. Ron held my hand until I got the first million in the bank. I'm now a multi-millionaire with international homes around the world. That was from Andy Hunt, Clear Sky Properties. Mike Jones, 25-year-old lad. The investors that Ron introduced me to so far introduced into my business 500,000. Michael Craftman. Ron helped us raise 1.5 million. He's now become a millionaire. And the testimonials go on and on and on. And I'm sure some of you will check me out on Google, and I'd welcome that, because it's very interesting for me for you to see what it is that I've done helping other people. Okay? So how are we going to do this? My friend and colleague sitting at the back there, who I go back over 20 years at least, maybe more, Peter Thompson, he sends us out a lovely little email every day. How many of you read those little emails? Now, I read every single one of them. I can't say I enjoy all of them, but I'm looking for the gems. And in the last few weeks, we've had a couple of lovely little gems. And whenever I see one of Peter's gems, sometimes I phone him up, sometimes I email him, sometimes I just make a note of it. But this one here I find particularly interesting. The price of success must be paid in full and paid in advance. And there are no shortcuts. You've got to do this, right? No shortcuts. The other one that he came about 3 weeks ago, I don't know if you saw this one, everything that you want in life is just outside your comfort zone. I nearly fell off the chair when I read that one. I thought, that is super. How many of you saw that one? Yeah, a few of you. So I love Peter Thompson's little quotes. And today I'm hoping that we can share some stuff with you, which is the how, but both on the business side of things and on the mind power side of things. One of the things that I teach and train is this thing that I call the power of one. And it's unbelievably powerful because everybody comes into a network just as you, and that's you there. And I teach and train this power of one over and over again. And the truth is, it doesn't matter if this person's brand new to the business, they need to learn the power of one. And it doesn't matter if they've kind of built a network and it's started to plateau. They need to get back into the zone that they were in when they first started the business. And that's very, very crucial. And what I teach and train is just how to make that simple little link, which is that, sponsoring one person. And I want to go into a little bit of detail about how I do that. And I think I've probably sponsored more people in ISN than anybody else. There might be a couple of people up there with me, but it's right up there with the big ones, right? So I'm talking from experience of sponsoring people in over and over again. One of the things that I use, and I do believe the telephone is the most important tool. There are lots of tools you're going to get, but the telephone is the most important tool. And it's those first few words that I find absolutely crucial to grab somebody's attention, right? And I've heard people say, yada, 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 we're in the silver and gold business, gold is going through the roof, da, 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 da. And I don't do that, not for a single minute. What I do, within seconds, I say to that person on the phone, are you still interested in making serious money? That's my opening gambit. Are you still interested in making serious money? And there's a real reason for that, because I do believe you've only got one bite of the cherry, and I do believe you've only got seconds to go through that window of opportunity. If you start out on the track where it's silver and gold, and silver's going through the roof, and gold's going through the roof, da 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 da, you're not really hitting that person with the rapport that you could do, simply because the man on the street, the woman on the street, is not walking around thinking about silver and gold. Not for a single minute. What most people are walking around with is their need to earn and make money. They're thinking of the mortgage payments, the car payments. Where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from for food? Where's the money coming from for the kids' education? They're not walking around thinking, wow, the silver and gold, I'm watching the price, we could get some coins. They're not thinking that at all. So in other words, if you hit them with that within the first few seconds, what you're doing is having to go through a whole educational process talking about silver and gold. And I think that's difficult. Whereas if you hit them up with, are you interested in making serious money? I think the answer to that, and I find it most times the answer is most people say absolutely yes, who isn't? You're right there. In other words, you've entered that person's inner world. And when I want to strike rapport with somebody instantaneously, I need to enter that person's inner world. Right? And I'm one of those people who can do that with men, women, all sorts of situations, and I'm not just talking about ISN here, but entering that person's inner world is something that you really need to do. You need to come at them from their level, what they're thinking about. Very, very powerful. Okay? So what I do, I teach and train how to get that first person on board. And it's not just about building a list, signing them up, hitting them with the right telesales message. It's about, once I've got that person on board, and we teach and train this, it's all of the other things that go with it. And people don't stumble over massive great logs, they stumble over twigs. So in other words, how do I get into my back office? A simple thing. Me and Mark and Camel, we've got methodologies for showing people live on the screen. This is how you do it. Okay, I've signed somebody up now. How do I move people right off of my front line into? We show people in depth all of the tiny, tiny little things to make these things happen. Right. So it's that power of one that we really do emphasise over and over again. Now, what I also show in building this network, there is work to be done. And particularly in the early days, as you build this network, and you put in a couple of people here, maybe a couple of people here, maybe 3 people there, and I'm dyslexic and innumerate, so I can't really add up, but I know what you're aiming to do is build a critical mass of a number of people, okay? And this is absolutely crucial. And this is the hardest bit of work that you're going to do in building your network, having that critical mass. And I always say, and it doesn't really matter what the figure is, but I say a critical mass is about 10 people. So you work very, very hard. Nobody's saying this is easy. You've got work to do. You've got a list to build. You've got phone calls to make. You've got to make this happen. You've got to build that critical mass, and everybody's got to do that. Now, with that, once that critical mass is in place, from there on in, everything gets easier. And not only does it get easier, everything gets more lucrative. So, I'm no good at maths, so I need you to help me through the figures, but these figures are incredible, right? So say if we've got 10 people, and I want to labour the point here, these are not ordinary people, right? These are people that have been what? Say again? They've been taught and trained, right? So these are not 10 ordinary people, they're people who've been taught and trained in the power of one. They've been taught and trained how to get one person. So if you have 10 people, and we show this to people over and over again, this is my office is a constant flow of people, and we're teaching this elementary thing, and people have a paradigm shift. They go, wow, now I understand the magic of what we're doing. So if we have 10 people who've been taught and trained, not just 10 ordinary people, but 10 people who've been taught and trained the power of one, and they go out and get one person, not 67 people, not 3 people, not 89 people, not 111 people, one person, what does that little group of 10 people turn into?
20.
Who said that? Have you done this before?
Yeah.
Are you trying to steal my thunder? This is Cuba. He always steals my thunder, but before he came to my trainings, he didn't know the answer to that. Okay? Is that right, Cuba?
Yeah.
Yeah? So, I want to labour the point. If we got 20 people that have been taught and trained, not 20 ordinary people, you see, if you've just signed them in and left them and they haven't been taught and trained how to get that one person in and build that critical mass, nothing's going to happen. But it's people who've been taught and trained. If those 20 people get one person in, not 111 people, 69 people, 3 people, 72 people, 10,000 people, just one, what does that little network turn into? 44. Who said 44? 40. 40, okay? You see where I'm going with this in a minute? Because if you can have the paradigm shift of how this builds and grows into something that can make you serious money, it's very, very good. And most people can't get their mind around building a network. And it is so simple if you just understand the figures. I'm going to go a little bit further with this. 40 people who've been, what? Taught and trained. I teach people, and I teach them over and over again, I don't believe I'm in the network marketing business. I don't believe I'm in the silver and gold business. I believe I'm in the teaching and training business. I really do. And it's those people that can talk and teach and train and get duplicated are the people who are going to make this happen, right? Teaching and training is where it's all at, getting that duplication. This will not happen on its own. You might wish and hope and pray it will, but it won't. It will grind to a halt very quickly unless you're teaching and training. So if those people who've been taught and trained how to get one person, how many does that grow into?
60.
60. Stand up and shout it aloud.
60!
Any advance on 60?
80.
We'll go with 80.
Okay.
That's all right. That's okay. Attempt for trying anyway. Okay. If 80 people just get one person each. 160. Do you see where we're going with this? What did you do in the early days? What did you do in the early days? You built a little critical mass and you taught and trained people how to do the same. Is that clear? Is that simple? Do we need to deviate from that? That's unbelievably powerful, isn't it? Unbelievably powerful. And 160 people just getting one person each, how many is that? Now do you start to see the magic come in? Yeah? And the 320 goes into what? Just by getting one person each. How many? I'm not going to do any more, but I can promise you we're way past that now and we're motoring, right? But we started off by building that critical mass. And I promise you faithfully, the work and effort of putting that together, you think you're never going to get there. Well, once you got that and that teaching and training, I'm not joking, in the morning when you switch your computer on, overnight you can see the growth because somebody somewhere other than you has done some work and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people have signed in. But you've got to get that critical mass. And we teach and train it over and over again. Okay? Now, what I want to share with you as well, and this absolutely amazes me, is the leaders for this business. It would be lovely if 3 leaders appeared on your front line and 3 leaders appeared on their front line and 3 leaders appeared there. But the truth is, the network is going to fill up with all sorts of people, and some of them are going to turn out to be leaders, and invariably the leaders are going to come from the depth of the network. How do you recognise leaders? Has anybody got an idea on that? What is the clue?
They breathe.
They breathe. No, absolutely, absolutely. They breathe. Any advance on breathing? What else do they do? Come to meetings? Absolutely. What else do they do? They talk? Absolutely. Yeah, what else do they do?
They seek information.
They seek information. They're always phoning up, wanting to know more and more and more. Absolutely.
They follow successful people.
They follow successful people. So the point is, you really do want to treat all of those people as potential leaders and look out for the clues, because the minute you see somebody appear at a meeting, the minute you see somebody sign somebody in on their own initiative, you've got the building of a leader, which is absolutely fantastic. And we teach and train that, okay? Absolutely amazing. One of the other things that we share and we do, if you come to my office, you'll see 3 of these charts laid out like that, with the complete legs mapped out, 60, 70 people, however many it is, on those charts, all with an individual name. Karen, right, John, and we know every one of those people, absolutely, and who they're linked to. And I don't believe you can make this business happen if you've got your network in your head and in your back office. I really can't see how you can do that. This is a people business, and these circles aren't just circles on a bit of paper. This is a real network full up with real people, and you really ought to be studying the synergies between those people and how that team can come together, and looking at who's talking to who, where meetings can go. You might see a little leg over here, and you've got meetings in Peckham or Clapham or wherever it is, and you might see some people over here or in the depth here working in a similar, and bring those people together and foster that teamwork. And we're doing that all the time, linking people together, not leaving people to do this job of work on their own. And I think that's absolutely crucial, understanding that teamwork. And I learned from Steve Harris, team is together, everyone achieves more. Camel does one of the best team building trainings I've ever seen. And we learn from it. And it's getting these teams going together and working as a team that really builds a strong network. And don't forget, your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth. That is unbelievably powerful. If you don't understand that you're not going to make money unless you've got that network, and everybody is relying on themselves, on each other, that is unbelievably powerful. I'm going to come back to this in a minute about networking, but I want to cover off quite a few things today. And I particularly want to talk to you about some mind power. A lot of people accomplish their goals, and I've also talked to a lot of people who've never accomplished their goals, but they've read all the books and they think they ought to be further ahead than where they are. Now, we had some lovely chats from Matt and Vincent yesterday, and they are talking about trips to go to Florida, right? Now, I can tell you 3 people in this room, without a question of a doubt, are going to be in Florida. That's me, Chris Pomelli, and Chris Brown. They're going to be in Florida.
I know what you're waiting on.
Eh?
I know what you're waiting.
We're going to send you over on the dinghy. You've got to come. But you understand, this is absolutely for sure. But when you heard that trip to Florida, how many of you thought, I'd like to be on that trip? Now, quite a few of you. But the truth is, I absolutely know I'm going to be there. I absolutely know it. I have no question about in my mind. Okay? So, what I would say is today's Sunday, I promise you faithfully, by Friday, either me or one of my staff will have gone to some travel agents and got a whole load of stuff about Florida. And I will study it and I will imbibe it and I will take myself there. And I'm going to be there by hook or by crook, and I never miss a goal. But I'm starting programming now. Would it be helpful if I did a guided visualization for you, and we don't even know what we've got to do to get to Florida yet? To me, that's irrelevant. I'm there. I'm going to be there. Whatever the task is, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go to Florida. How many of you are coming with me? Okay. Now, I'm going to do a little guided visualization to show you what it is that I do, the people I've trained to become world champions and millionaires, what it is that I do to give them that paradigm shift in their brain to make these things happen in reality. Okay? And this is ever so powerful. The first thing you want to take on board is this decision that you're going to go to Florida, right? And I've made the decision I'm going. I don't even know what I've got to do, but I'm going, right? I will carry out that task and I will be in Florida at that ISN meeting on the paid trip. Does anybody disbelieve me? Can you see intent written all across the top of my head? I'm going to be there. So what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes and relax for a minute and let me just take you through this guided visualization that you will find unbelievably useful, not just for getting you to Florida, but for accomplishing loads of other things in your life, right? You'll find out the detail that I go through putting that program in my mind, okay? So close your eyes, and here's the fact, you've made the decision, you're going to Florida. And what I want you to visualise, and you've all been there, and even if you haven't been there, you've seen it on the television, you're now at Heathrow Airport. And you're waiting in one of the Costa coffee shops, and you're waiting. And you see Ron Holland, Ron V told me he would be there, that's fantastic. And then suddenly Chris Pomelli pipes up, here I am, of course I'm here. And then we hear, long before he arrives, he says, I hate flying, but I'm coming with anybody. Chris Brown's there with us. And what you want to see is yourself with the 3 of us, and you want to see a photograph being taken. So those 3 guys in front of the Costa coffee shop, you're there, you're going to Florida, right? This is it. This is exciting. You get on the big jet, it's probably a 747, it's probably a Virgin jet, and you're on that flight. And what I want you to do is just relax and eat all the nibbles and the drinks as the stewardess is bringing it around, but very, very quickly you arrive in Florida, okay? This is what happens next. As you come out of that airport building, which is air-conditioned, you walk outside and you get hit with a blast of hot, dry air you've never felt in your life before. And you think you've stepped in to the exhaust fumes of one of the big Greyhound buses. It's that hot. And you go, wow, I want you to feel that right now. Feel that heat. And it's different to what we're experiencing now. You're in Florida, okay? And then you get on the transporter and it gets you to your hotel, and there's a big swimming pool there, and you can see Chris Pomelli and Chris Brown and Ron Holland, and you're there swimming in the pool, and it's water like you've never experienced before. The water is nice and chilled, and as you get out you can feel that hot air again, but you're in Florida, and when you look around you can see those palm trees. You know you're in Florida, you're right there, right? Now, before we get to the ISN event, we're going to go out, we're going to have some fun, and we're going to go to one of their favourite surf and turf restaurants. And this is fantastic. And as you sit down at the table, the waiter walks behind you, and you think, what's going on here? And then he reaches over the top of you, and he puts a big bib on front of you to protect your clothing, and he ties it up at the back, and you're ready for your lobster. So what you've got is a big steak with a lobster on top, and it's fantastic. And you've got some drinks and chilled lemonade, and you're there and you're having fun, and you're really, really there in Florida, and this is unbelievable. It's happening. You've made it. You did whatever it took, but you're putting that program in your mind that you're really, really going to Florida. And while we're there, we have more fun because Disneyland is there. We all go down for a trip to Disneyland. And as you walk through the gates, you hear the unbelievable song, right? M-E-M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. And you're saying, we're here, we're in Florida, we're in Disneyland. This is absolutely fantastic. And you're really there and you're putting this program in your mind. And it is unbelievable. And now we come to the day of the meeting and the day of the event, and we got all Chris there, and Ron there, and Chris Brown there, and Matt and Vincent there acting as interpreters for the three of us, because all the audience, they can't understand the British accents, but Matt and Vincent tell the people what we're talking about. And we're having training, we're having fun, but we're in Florida. We're looking out the window and we can see the palm trees, and we're really, really there. And it's fantastic. And what I would suggest to you, if you're not doing this visualization in advance, not just for getting to Florida, but for anything it is in life that you're trying to accomplish, I would suspect it's going to be very, very difficult for you to accomplish your goals. Because the brain works in such a way, if you put in this program in advance, that will give you a track to run on. And it works over and over again. Okay? There's a few more little bits to this guided visualization. And now, after we've done the meeting with Matt and Vincent and the two Chris's and Ron, and we've met a whole lot of Americans who are signing into the business, we then go down onto the beach. And boy, it's hot, and it really is hot, and you can't get on the beach there without putting on special suntan lotion. And it's got a smell of its own. This is high density barrier cream stuff. It smells funny, it's sticky, but you've really got to put this on your back and on your arms and on your face and your forehead. If you don't put it on, you're going to lose your skin. You really are. You're going to get peeled, you're going to burn up. Right, but you're going to have that beautiful time on the beach, and you're going to come back tanned. It's absolutely fantastic. And you're really there in Florida. You've got that vision now of making things happen. Now, before you come back home, you're really getting excited now about ISN. And what you're going to do is develop now your 5-year plan for making this happen, your global business. And I love Donald Trump, who's a billionaire, Robert Kiyosaki, who's a billionaire. They're big advocates, both of them, of network marketing, and they're big advocates of the silver industry. And you want to take that on board as you conceive your 5-year plan. How are you going to do it? How are you going to get there from there? How many phone calls you're going to make? How many meetings are you going to have? Where are you going to start sponsoring? And getting your mind, getting your mind around this is more crucial than anything else. It's the pinnacle of everything. It's what you've got to be doing. And if you haven't accomplished your goals in life before, now maybe you'll start taking this mind power part of it really, really seriously. And then, when you come back to the UK, you get back to the grey skies of London at Heathrow Airport, but you've got that vim and that vigour, and you're ready to go, okay? And you feel absolutely fantastic. So now you can open your eyes, and we'll have a little bit of a question session. So how many of you were really there with me in Florida, seeing that as we went through? A whole load of you, absolutely. Now my question to you is do you do this kind of thinking things through into advance on every goal that you're setting yourself? Are you really thinking how you're going to get to goal and visualising on the board and talking to the people on the board? How many of you on a regular basis do what I would call the mind power work? Meditation, affirmations, visualisations? A handful of you. I think there's room for improvement. I really do believe if you're going to go to the top, you've got to start becoming a mind power person. And I really can't see how you can accomplish really, really big goals without getting that period of meditation where you're going into yourself and having that no mind. How many people have you go into no mind on a regular basis? Okay, 6 of you. Okay, next time I'd like to see 98% of you saying, yeah, go into no mind on a regular basis. It's absolutely getting that no mind is when you get the big ideas. And if you study people who've had eurekas and big ideas, it's when they've kind of completely switched off and gone out of it that they come up with the big ideas. And I teach and train that in a big, big way. How many of you found that guided visualisation useful? How many of you found it not useful? Okay, everybody found it useful. That's fantastic. All right. Let's just kind of click into a little bit more of the mind power stuff, because I think this is a real kind of crucial step. That I'm hoping today you go away with a paradigm shift and this little voice in your head saying, maybe I haven't been successful in the past, but maybe I've never really got hold of my mind as much as I ought to have done. And I just think this is absolutely crucial. So I'm going back quite a few years ago now. I had a guy by the name of Clive Branson come into my office, and he said, he was a Welsh guy, and he spoke with a deep Welsh accent. He said, hello boyo, he says, I've got an unusual quest. I said, well, what is it? He said, well, unlike a lot of your clients who I should think want to become wealthy in business, he said, that doesn't really appeal to me. What I want to do is become world champion fisherman. That's what he wanted to do. He'd set a goal to become world champion fisherman. So I said, I absolutely believe I can help you with that goal. He says, I always come second, I come third, I come fourth, I come fifth, but I've never been able to get the world championship. How can you help me? And I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put you under hypnosis, and I'm going to give you some programs about becoming world champion fisherman, okay? And I said, one thing I want you to know is that I know absolutely nothing about fishing, right? That kind of shook him for a bit. But I said, what I do know a little bit about is mind power and accomplishing your goals. I said, do you want to do it? So we did a deal. I told him what I'd charge him, and he said, we got a deal. So I gave him all sorts of suggestions, and one of the suggestions that I gave him, and I'm going to share it with you, was you've come second, you come third, you come fourth, but this time around you're going to do the things that you don't ordinarily do. And I put that program in his brain, and under hypnosis I suppose I talked to him about an hour, but I kept slipping this little program in. You will start to do the things that you don't ordinarily do. And that was it. And at the end of the hour, he said, is that it? I said, yeah. I said, off you go. I said, that was the end of it. And to all intents and purposes, that is the end of the story. And I thought I'd never see him again. About a year later, I was at the Londoner Hotel just by Victoria Station. I was doing a meeting like this. This guy came in, he says, I hope you don't mind, in this deep Welsh accent, hope you don't mind, boyo. He says, before you get up on stage, can I say a few words to the audience? He says, you probably don't remember them. And I recognised the accent, but I didn't really click who he was. But he got up on stage and he got out this big gold medal on a red ribbon that was about that big, and he says, my name is Clive Branson, I'm world champion fisherman, thanks to this guy, and he pointed to me. He got a big round of applause and da-da-da. That evening, after the event, he took me to dinner, and he said, I just wanted to thank you for that programme, but he said, I wanted to share something with you because he says, I'm not so sure that you yourself realise what it is that you do for people. I said, well, what is it? He says, well, you put a program in my mind at a very, very deep level that was, I will start to do the things that I don't ordinarily do. And he said, I wanted to share with you what it was that I did to become world champion fisherman. I said, well, go ahead, tell me what you did. He says, well, you might remember, he says, I used to come second, I used to come third, I used to come fourth, fifth, but I never came number one, world champion. This time around, I got this message in my brain, do the things that you don't ordinarily do. And I had this voice going around in my head over and over and over again, and I was impelled to start doing the things that I don't ordinarily do. And I said, well, what did you do? He said, well, I looked at my past kind of failures, and I thought, well, what is it that I've got to do to become world champion? And he said, I got this idea in my head that I had to put everything into it and commit. And he says, in the end, he says, I sold my house. He says, I bought a brand new van, I bought brand new tackle, everything, and I bought all the airline tickets to get me to Portugal, to all of the different places where the World Championships were being held. And I got an admin person in place to make sure I got to all of those events, right? So suddenly, all I had to do was focus on the fishing. And before, I did everything myself with a beaten up old van, and I'd never really been able to absolutely focus. And he says, this is the time I've got the gold medal, I became world champion fisherman. I focused on the things that I don't ordinarily do. Now, why did I tell you that story? How many of you found that little sentence is going to be useful to you? Focus on the things you don't ordinarily do. If you've been a failure in the past and now you're itching for success, is that going to be useful to you? Start focusing on some of the things you don't ordinarily do, right? And for each and every one of us, it could be different, right? That guy put in an infrastructure, got a brand new van, bought the airline tickets, got himself to the World Championships, became world champion. You might have to do various other things, but you understand where I'm coming from on that. Focus on the things that you don't ordinarily do, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you an interesting story. We need to be honest here. How many people in this room have looked in a car showroom for their dream car and looked at it and said, I'm going to get that car? How many people have done that? Okay? How many people have done that and didn't get their dream car? They didn't get it. Okay, quite a few of you, and a few of you did. I'm a great believer in programming the brain. I call it how to reprogram the human biocomputer. How to reprogram the brain at a cellular level, right? Now, I just want to talk to you about the RAS, the reticular activating system. It's at the back of our brains and it's at the top of our brain stems, and it's densely packed with billions and billions of cells. It's an unbelievable mechanism, right? And in a way, it's a lifesaver, but it's a mechanism. If you're goal-oriented, you need to understand this mechanism, right? So it's the mechanism, when you're driving down the road, the RAS protects you, because it spots a car coming toward you, and the RAS, it's so powerful, it can work out the psychological profile of the driver, the speed that car's coming from, whether it's driven by a drunk or not, it knows everything. And it'll tell you whether you're in danger or not. That's how powerful the RAS is, right? The second that car has gone past you, it's gone, forget that one, next one, right? If you remembered all of the cars that came toward you, you would go absolutely mad. So it's brilliant, it focuses it in, but the minute it's no longer a danger to you, it's finished, okay? And you really want to clock this mechanism because it's unbelievably powerful, it's a lifesaver. But in a way, if you don't understand how the mechanism works, it can actually stop you accomplishing your goal, right? So you saw how the RAS worked then. It protected you, the minute it's gone, da-da-da. It's looking after your interests. But the problem is, when you're looking at that car in that car showroom, this time around, you don't want the RAS to forget it. You want this to slip into your subconscious program, not to forget it. So you've got to do something quite differently, okay? Do you know what that thing is that you've got to do differently now to use the RAS in a different way to let that program of the car that you actually want end up in your brain? Not like all those other cars you didn't want in your brain. Now suddenly you want the car or the goal in your brain. So what is it that you've got to do differently?
Focus on something you don't already.
Say again?
Focus on something you don't already usually focus on.
I'll go to the car, I'll sit in it, I'll smell it.
Sit in it, smell it. Okay, okay. That's not quite the word I want, but nearly there.
You confirm you want it. You tell the brain that you want it.
You tell the RAS you want it. There's a word that I'm looking for.
Visualise.
Visualise is good. It's not the word I'm looking for.
Desire.
I'm really going to help you here because today you're going to walk out of here and hopefully it'll change your life forever.
Livid?
Yeah, but that's not the word I want. Let's come back to Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. You need to work yourself up into a white heat intensity of burning desire. And most people read that on a piece of paper in his book and they miss the point completely. And they don't work themselves up into a white heat, intense burning desire. Okay? And many times, if you're not mixing this thing up with emotion, you're not going to get the car you want, right? So it really is understanding how to slip these programs into the subconscious mind below the threshold of consciousness and get emotive about the goals that you're trying to get. And that is absolutely crucial, getting emotive. So I'm one of those guys who's had every car that I've ever wanted, and I want to tell you, as a young man, I wanted a Rolls Royce. And I drove around the city of London in a beaten up Ford Escort, okay? And I knew about affirmations. And affirmations are okay, but that's only half of the story. An affirmation is when you start programming the left brain, right? So I was driving around in this Ford Escort, and I was putting in this affirmation, this verbal affirmation into my left brain, I own a Rolls Royce. So I drive around, and everywhere I got, I knew I had to program my mind. I'd slap the steering wheel and make up a little tune. And it was a Ford Escort, you've got to remember. And I was going around, I own a Rolls Royce, I own a Rolls Royce, I own a Rolls Royce. And I was just shouting it out over and over again. I own a Rolls Royce, putting that program in my left brain. One day, I remember ever so clearly, I was in Sutton High Street. If you know Sutton, I was at the top of the hill, and I was shooting down in my little Ford Escort, slapping the steering wheel, I own a Rolls Royce, I own a Rolls Royce, I own a Rolls Royce, and all the traffic had stopped at the bottom of the hill. And I'm shooting down, and suddenly, I'm going, I own, out, screech to a halt, and I didn't hit the guy, but I just stopped. And I was still going, I own a Rolls Royce, and it was a hot day like this, and the windows were rolled down, and there was a queue of people at a bus stop, and they were all peering in at me, and I was going, I own a Rolls Royce, and they thought I was absolutely mad. And I quickly kind of rolled up the windows, and I shot off, and I thought to myself, this isn't working. I've still got this Ford Escort, and I'm putting this affirmation into my brain, and I want a Rolls Royce. So I thought I'm going to do something different. So then I started driving my Ford Escort around as though it really was a Rolls Royce. And I thought, the people in the city that I know, they blow themselves up like this, and that's how they drove around, like that. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do in my Ford Escort. So I drove around like this. And if there was a parking space that wasn't 20 foot long that you could get in a Rolls Royce in, I thought, I couldn't get a roller in it. I'd drive off and I'd find a big gap like that. I'd get a Rolls Royce in there, and I'd park my little Ford Escort in there. People thought I was mad. I lived down there in Surrey, and when I was polishing up my Ford Escort, I polished the hood. You know that little Spirit of Ecstasy? I polished that up. It's invisible, of course. Polish it up. And I'd make this dance around the Ford Escort as though it was a Rolls Royce. My next door neighbour, he used to look over. He thought I was absolutely mad. But I put this program in my brain at a cellular level with emotion that I owned a Rolls Royce, okay? I'm going to tell you what happened next because it was canny, but if you start doing some of this stuff, you'll start realising you're clicking things in and making things happen. So my PR guy, a guy by the name of Gwyn, I phoned him up one day, not about a Rolls Royce, but in the conversation I just said to him, I said, Gwyn, I said, I've just got to have a Rolls Royce. He said, you're not going to believe this. He says, I own a Rolls Royce. I said, you're joking. No. He said, it's beyond that. He says, I own a Rolls Royce. It's up for sale. I've lined up the finance for a guy, 100% finance, and he's dropped me right in it. And he doesn't want it. He doesn't want it. Would you like it? Now, what do you think I said?
Yes.
So I drove over, 100% finance, I signed the forms, and I rolled back with the Rolls Royce, okay? And I got it. And like a young man with a Rolls Royce, I had fun with ladies and I had an absolute fabulous time. But I got my Rolls Royce. Now, the story that I want you to learn here is that whatever you're trying to get in life, you really do want to program your mind at a cellular level. It is no good saying, I own a Rolls Royce. I used to work with a guy, you know what he said to me? He says, I had a burning desire, but nothing happened to me. Right? Is that a burning desire? He did. He said, I had a burning desire, nothing happened to me. That's not a burning desire. Right? So you start taking on board this thing about putting that program in, and I've done it in loads of things in my life. And helped people attain their goals by putting programs in at a cellular level. Now, you think the story of the Rolls Royce is finished, but I just want to close the loop on that and make you laugh. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Anybody like to laugh?
Yes.
So I got this Rolls Royce, and at that time I was buying up print companies. So I phoned this guy up, he says, come on over, and he says, I'll show you what I got. So I got to the road. For one reason or another, I couldn't get the Rolls Royce down to the end of the road where the print factory was. So I left it at the wrong end of the street, and I walked down the road to the print factory. I went in to meet the guy, and I got an instant rapport with him. I don't know what we were talking about, but we just clicked. And either one of us or the other said, well, why don't we conclude this bit of business over some lunch? He said, yeah, he said, absolutely. He says, at the end of the road, just down the other end, he says, there's a lovely little restaurant we could go to, and we could have some lunch and do the business. So when we walked out of his print factory, I could see where we were going, and I knew we'd be walking past my Rolls Royce, which was a yellow Rolls Royce with a TV aerial on the back. I tell you, it looked like $1 million. My plan was to just completely ignore it and walk past to the restaurant. So we're walking down, like we've known each other for 100 years. I've only just met him. We're walking down the road. I'm going to buy his print factory off him. We're going to have a lovely lunch. We get to the Rolls Royce, and he put his arm out across the pavement. Stop, stop. He says, look at that. Look at that. He says, that is my dream car. Oh, he says, look at that. I said, do you like it? He said, it's my dream car. I says, we'll nick it. He says, nick it? I said, I've only just met the guy. I said, we'll nick it. We'll nick it. He says, and I've got out this big bunch of keys, and I said, I can't promise I can do this every time. Oh, I said, look at that. The door. He says, nicking it? I said, yeah. I said, we're not going to nick it. I said, we'll go round the block, I'll give you a little joyride, and we'll bring it right back. He got in the passenger side, he's going to nick the car with me. What a nutter, right? So, then I said, fiddling around with all these keys, I said, look, I said, we've got in. I can't promise I can start it. I said, oh, he said, it's yours, isn't it? Yeah. What, he's going to nick a car with a stranger? Well, what is it with some people? So, it knows he's putting programs in at cellular level. So, I went to the top hypnotherapist in the country, and I'm not going to mention his name because you might even know it. But I said to him, as a young man, I said, I've got to have a Rolls Royce. I said, you've got to put a program into my brain that helps me get a Rolls Royce. Do you know what he said to me?
He said, that is like I'm some kind of idiot. He says, that's just the easiest thing in the world to do. I said, well, just tell me what I've got to do, and I'll do it. He said, well, it's just so easy. He says, you know, on a Rolls Royce, you've got that little thing on the front of the radio. That's a spirit of ecstasy. He says, what I want you to do is visualise this spirit of ecstasy over and over again. But don't make it that size, make it like 3-4 foot tall, and visualise it over again. A huge one. A huge spirit of ecstasy. I said, is that all I've got to do? He said, that's all you've got to do, and you've got your Rolls Royce. So I paid him, I said, thank you very much. Just like that, thank you very much. So then, I kept putting this program in, visualising this big spirit of ecstasy. Below me down, I was down in Hastings. How many of you know Hastings? Only a few of you. Hastings is a lovely rinky-dink seaside town on the south coast, full of criss-cross little roads like that, with lovely, lovely restaurants, wine bars and antique shop. And I was with a friend of mine. We were walking past, minding our own business. Suddenly, what was in the front window? This spirit of ecstasy, Rolls Royce, from how huge it was. I had to have it. I think the guy wanted £3 grand, which was a lot of money back in those days, but I got this thing, solid stainless steel, beautifully polished, and I've still got it. And people come to my office, they say, what is that? And I said, well, you know, it's off a Rolls Royce radio. It's a big Rolls Royce because it's huge. And I tell them this visualisation story, and people love the story. But it just shows you what you set your mind to is what you get. And like I say, I've had many Rolls Royces, and they've all come and gone, but I've still got that little spirit of ecstasy. Okay? How many of you have taken on board this programming the brain at a cellular level? Okay? How many of you think what I've told you today is going to make a difference in what you're doing? It really should, because I promise you faithfully, reading the books, doing the workshops, listening to the programs won't do any good at all. No brownie points at all. The only thing that will help you in your life is when you program your own brain at a cellular level and get that program in over and over and over again of what it is that you're trying to accomplish, not my goals, your own goals. Get that programmed in at a cellular level, and that is going to start making it happen for you. Unbelievably powerful. But you've got to do it. Okay? I love the story, and I'm sure you might have read it, but how many of you have heard of Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich? Napoleon Hill, writing that book, this is a book written in 1937. It's a very unusual book, insofar as Napoleon Hill was a 22-year-old journalist, interviewed the richest man in America, Andrew Carnegie. Okay, he was a Scotsman, emigrated to America and became the world's first billionaire. And in his business, Andrew Carnegie created 57 millionaires. Unheard of at the time. Unheard of, unprecedented. And he's got this young journalist in front of him, Napoleon Hill, and he was so struck by Napoleon Hill, he said, I want you to undertake writing the world's first success philosophy about how men become rich. And he says, I will give you letters of introduction to the presidents of America, the richest people in the world, and I will really help you on the way to get these interviews. And you study and find out what it is that they do. And he says, on top of that, he says, what I want you to do is surpass my achievements of helping people become wealthy. I've created 57 millionaires. And you are going to surpass that by far, and I'm going to show you how to do it. He says, I want you to write on a piece of card, the size of a business card, that I, Napoleon Hill, will by far surpass the accomplishments of Andrew Carnegie in helping people and helping people become millionaires. He's 22 years old, he's got no money at all, he's a young journalist, and he's written that on the card, which is the one thing Andrew Carnegie told him to do. And what do you think he did with that bit of card? He was told to read it over and over again. What do you think he did with it?
Put it in front of his car.
Put it in front of his car?
Yeah, so every time he drove the car.
That's a good idea. He didn't do that. He didn't have a car at that time. He had a motorbike. I'm joking, Patrick. What do you think he did with that bit of paper?
Affirm. Affirm.
He affirmed it. That is correct. How many of you have read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill? Quite a few of you, you see, and he understood the secret of what he had to do when he read that bit of paper out. And he knew that just reading that affirmation out would do absolutely nothing at all. Nothing, right? So what else did he do other than read it out?
Meditate.
Pardon?
Meditate.
Meditate, yeah. What else? What else?
Feeling.
Feel it, yeah.
He learned from his mentor.
He learned from his mentor. What else did he do? It's a lesson that you've got to learn today, because I've got a hunch a load of you in this room have set goals, you read them, you know them inside out, backwards, and nothing happens. He took action, but that's not what I'm looking for. What else did he do? Visualise. What else did he do?
He went to hypnosis.
He went to Ron Holland. What else did he do? Because you do need to take that on board, because what happened next was absolutely amazing. Andrew Carnegie created how many millionaires? 57. What did he do other than just read that bit of card out that he was going to way surpass Andrew? And when he read it, he knew he couldn't. 22-year-old journalist. Why should he create millionaires? Ridiculous. What did he do with it?
He lived it.
Duplicated himself.
He
He went
believed.
to Mexico and had a peyote trip.
He had a what? A peyote trip, I love it. Have you had one of them? Well, I'll come on the next one with you. We like the old Rangy Boom and the old Mario's bananas and all of that. Yeah?
He believed.
He believed. No, he did more than that.
Set a goal.
He did more than that. And it's just incredible to me that this is not just rolling off your tongue. Because I really do believe you've read all the books and you're not doing this one thing.
He lived it.
Burning desire. Who said that? Stand up, stand up. Shout it out. Right?
Burning desire.
Yeah, so he had a burning desire. He emotionalised this statement. He emotionalised it. And when he talks about this, he says, I was so embarrassed to do this. He says, because my brother used to live, and I think his brother was called Mordecai, if I remember rightly. He said, my brother Mordecai lived in the same house, and I didn't want him to hear me emotionalise this. And I knew I had to read this out. I went into the bathroom, and I turned on all the faucets, and I made a lot of noise, and I emotionalised this card. I will surpass Andrew Carnegie's achievements by far. I will create loads of millionaires. And his brother, he thought, couldn't hear it, but of course his brother was here winging on the door. But that doesn't matter. That's the bit of the story I made up. Now, how many of you today are going to start emotionalising your goals? Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. How many of you were here last time when you saw me do goal director walking? Yeah? Goal director walking. A few days later I became goal director, right? Goal director walking. So I actually don't just talk about this, I practice what I preach, right? So now I'm putting in the program, what's the next thing up after goal?
Platinum.
So I'm strutting around my office now, and do you want a demonstration? So you know what it looks like. Not for my benefit, but how many of you in this room have got goals? Do you need to know how to emotionalise goals? Right? So I'm walking around in my office now, platinum director walking, platinum director walking. I am a platinum director. I am a platinum director. Platinum director walking. And people come in and they say, who's this nut? Oh, that's Ron, who you've come to see. It's embarrassing for everybody. It's embarrassing. Yeah, and I say, I don't care, mate. You're early. And even if you were late, I'll still be doing it. But do you believe I'm programming my brain at a cellular level? Do you believe I'm writing an email to everybody in ISN who's been in ISN but has dropped out? We sent them a survey. And there was a load of questions on there. Why did you drop out of ISN? And one of the main questions, one of the main things was, why do you think The number one reason was people dropped out of ISN. The number one reason that came up to the top over and over again. Lack of support. Lack of support.
Couldn't afford it.
Couldn't afford it. Other people say no deal. Who else has got an idea of why people drop out of ISN? Eh? Didn't have enough time. No. The number one reason why they dropped out of ISN was they couldn't afford the £100 a month payment, right? That was the number one reason. Then, that tells me a whole lot, and we've learnt from that experience, because now we're very, very careful of how we, when we're talking to people about coming in to join the business, we're qualifying them properly, and we're saying, do not join this business if you're on benefits, if you're skint, if you're on the dole, don't join it. This is a fantastic, fantastic business, but it is not a get-rich-quick scheme. And we tell people that over and over again. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a serious business that will make you a lot of money, but you definitely, like loads of other businesses, you'll need a little bit of capital in the early days to get in, to pay your monthly, to pay your overheads. You're going to need some money to sustain yourself till the business kicks in. So knowing that is a very, very powerful thing. Qualify the people you get in. Don't tell them lies that they're going to make money the first month, the money's going to flood in. Tell them it's a slow burn business. And that is very, very powerful. Get in proper people who know what they're getting into. That is unbelievably powerful. The other thing on the survey, which was absolutely amazing, was there was a question in the survey that said, if we could show you the success formula of how this really works, would you rejoin ISN? And that question got 100%. There was not a single person who said, no, I would never look at the business again. Is that powerful or what? So people love ISN. They just need to know how to make it work and how to make it happen. So in my mind, that was absolutely mind-blowing. That's a winning formula. Okay? Between 5 and 40 minutes every day. Yeah? Does that answer your question? But I really do encourage people to meditate. I think it's the number one key. Going into that altered state, getting into alpha, and letting the brain do the work. And when I have somebody under hypnosis, one of my favourite expressions for them is let the brain do the work. And most people don't. Let the brain do the work. Let the brain do the work. And most people are trying to solve all their problems on their left brain or their subconscious mind. Left brain or doing it consciously. I'm a great believer in handing it over to the subconscious. Okay? Ever so powerful. Just a couple more things I want to finish up, because I'm getting all sorts of signals from the back there. Just one of the things that I'm saying, if you're in any business that's got massive, massive potential, you would be investing in that business, in the stock, in the people, in the overheads. You would invest time and money building the foundations of that business to give you a good return in the future. And I promise you faithfully, ISN is no different to that. I'm looking at that 5-year vision. I'm putting huge amount of resources, time, money, effort, going up and down the country, doing things, putting that, paying the price now, because I know if I'm going to build a very, very serious business, right, it's worth doing, okay? Was this mind power stuff useful to you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to share a couple more things with you that I think you'll find very, very useful.
Is there a certain time rate?
Whenever I can squeeze it in. Whenever I can squeeze it in. Okay, what I want you to do now, and I don't know if you've seen this before, but even if you've seen it before, I want you to do it today. What I want you to do is all move forward on your seats for a bit. All move forward, right to the edge, till you're uncomfortable, right? This is the key, right? Till you're uncomfortable, right? A little bit more. Some of you try a little bit harder, till you're practically falling off, I would say. That's it. Till you're on the edge, right on the edge of your seat. Now, There's a real reason why I do this, and I hope you don't mind me. You're on the edge of your seat there? This is crucial. You're falling off. I think this is good, this is good. When I get back to the office tomorrow, do you know what they're going to say to me? You know what they're going to say? How did the talk go up in Crewe? I say, you're not going to believe it, you're not going to believe it. I had them on the edge of their seats. Right? We're not finished yet, we're not finished yet. No, this is crucial. This is crucial because this stuff goes down in my town. Stand up, I want to show you something else. I want you to get emotional. Don't make me do this twice. I want you to grip your fist like this. Grip it as hard as you can. And don't do it until I tell you you're ready. But I want you to be emotional and say, in ISN, we've got something that's working. So really loud, but punch the air. In ISN, we've got something that's working.
In ISN, that's something that's working.
Right. I can accomplish all my goals.
I can accomplish all my goals.
This time I'm really going to do it.
This time I'm really going to do it.
Now, I want you to do one more thing. Go like that. Like that, like that, like that. Right? Now listen to the instructions ever so carefully, because we're only going to do this once. When I say go, you smash your hands together, listen carefully, 10 times, 10, not 11, not 9, 10 times, and then sit down. Hard as you can, then sit down. How many times? 10. When I say go, and then sit down, okay? 10 times, go. Sit down, right? Now, when I go back into the office tomorrow, I'm going to say, I'm not only had them on the edge of their seats, but I've got a standing ovation as well. Thank you very much. There's my good mate, Chris Bomelli. Well done, mate. Thank you for the time. Thank you. Yeah.
Let's have another standing ovation.
Here's my mate. Is that money for me?
Okay, well, we're about ready to wrap up. We're going to have one final speaker. And just before I do, who saw Toby yesterday? Now, would you have liked to sponsor Toby?
Yes.
Would you like to know how Toby got involved?
Yes.
Okay, we've got 2 minutes to do this. Okay. Now, he wasn't asked into the business. And the person that prejudged it had a conversation with Chris Brown, who's going to take 34 seconds to tell you what that prejudgment was. Chris?
She's been in network marketing before this woman. You need a 1 checker, a 2 checker, or a 3 checker. You have to 1 checkers. Christine's a 3 checker, just use her for canned products. We'll sign her up anyway. That's exactly what was told me. Right? The girl what sponsored Christine has now dropped out of business. Okay? But now think what he said. A 1 checker, a 2 checker, or a 3 checker. A 1 checker's dynamite. A 3 checker is crap. Now they put her in the business and said she was crap before she started. And look what she's turned me over.
Right. Turn you down. Now, this is how Christine, exactly how Christine got Toby involved in the business.
I'd just been in the business for about a week and Deborah introduced me and I was at a meeting with Toby and I'd just literally received my silver coin. So I knew that Toby had had some experience of network marketing and I just said, I'm in a new business and it's about silver and look at this silver coin. And all he said was, wow, this is fantastic. I want to be in that business. And that threw me into a major panic because I thought, now what do I do? So very fortunately, I'd got Chris's number in my phone and I thought, I hope he's in. Phoned him and thank goodness he was in. And he was able to talk to Toby. And then we chatted further with Deborah and he very soon joined. And he is the one who's visualising getting his Mercedes-Benz, and he'll definitely be gold, and so will I. I'm silver, and both Toby and I are going to get gold together. And I've said
and that's from a 3 checker who was in the business for a week, and all he did was hold up the best business card that they've got in ISN, and that's that coin. That is your best business card. And what did she know? Nothing. What did she tell him? Nothing. What did she do? She used the person who she chose to be her mentor. Okay? As Toby chose Chris to be the mentor. And Toby was talking yesterday about being a mentor. Now, good many years ago, I used to have a problem because who motivates the motivator? Who mentors the mentor? Okay? And in this business, you need to choose, and it doesn't matter who it is, whoever you feel comfortable with, who's going to be your mentor.